Alright, hello there. This is my final individual performance analysis. My name is Easton Cavazos, and today we're going to be looking at the performance called Stomp. So, what is Stomp? Stomp is basically just a worldwide percussion group. Their gimmick is they use everyday objects like brooms, trash cans, bins, anything you can think of, plastic bags, and they use that to create music, complex rhythmic compositions. So, the group started off in England by performers Luke Cresswell and Steve McNicholas. Um, now, but they have a Stomp production performance every year, but we're going to be looking at Stomp Live 2009, which is in the London's Ambassadors Theatre, and it has about 8 main actors or performers. Um, and this analysis is going to focus on themes of embodiment and performance in place. So I went ahead and left a link at the bottom left there for anyone that does want to watch it. The whole thing's like an hour and a half long-ish. It's pretty long, but it was a good watch. So there's a picture of Stomp Live on the right. So after you have watched the video, if you chose to, this is my analysis. So Stomp transforms ordinary actions like sweeping, stomping, and hitting stuff into choreographed rhythm. And performers communicate entirely through body movement and sound, which puts extreme emphasis on embodiment. This can be seen in the brooms routine at the beginning of the video. Uh, they use kind of sweeping like motions with the broom, forming a synchronized arc. The feet are constantly being stomped by shifting body weight in a coordinated fashion. Uh, and multitudes of sounds can be heard. The broom bristles scratch on the floor, and you can hear slaps from the broom handles and foot taps that act as kind of like bass beats, and they all come together. So there's not many visuals in the performance, but there are some things worth noting, like the lighting. The lighting's pretty dim, nothing too bright. I think the low lighting kind of brings more emphasis on the motion and the rhythm of the actors and the objects they use. So also worth noting is that the performers, they wear urban clothes, and the brooms kind of act as like extensions of the body. You'll come to see. So, kind of going on from that, bodies are one of the key features here. The arms and legs of every performer coordinate to form upper body sweeps and lower body stomps. They're basically the bodies are instruments that are played with weight, timing, and angles. So all the performers, they synchronize and maintain timing and adapt their posture. I think they embody discipline in a way. So the space of the floor of the set is used frequently. Performers are moving everywhere. Movement occurs across the stage in lines or in staggered groups. The floor is kind of like a canvas that the dancers use to draw with their broom marks and their other objects that they use. Um, Material objects are the second half of the story. They're the second key item. They're not props, they're actually instruments. So everything they use, the brooms, the trash can lids, the barrels, plastic bags, they're all used as instruments. And they kind of use them as like extensions of their own body by changing the force and angle of the sound. So the object that they use determines how it's played. There is no speaking, so performers are forced to interact with the audience through sound and movement. Alright, so what should you focus on? I would really say, if you haven't watched it yet, I would recommend focusing on the object that they use and how they use that object to create sound. So, in the top right, you can see these people holding on the brooms. That's typically not how a normal person would use a broom, but it's really interesting to see how they hold onto the broom and positions they take to create a song and dance with the broom. So, how they use objects like for their unintended purpose, I would say I'd recommend looking at that. Uh, Pay attention to the layers of rhythm while watching the video. You'll see people, they have an individual performance. Uh, some people will make songs, change the rhythm individually, and then they all come together as an ensemble to really shine. And you can still hear the individual parts in the ensemble. You just hear the different parts of the song, layers of rhythm. So I'd take a look at the spatial patterns of performers, how they kind of use the canvas that is the floor in the bottom right. Now these people are constantly moving, so it's kind of hard to keep track sometimes, but they all have a place, specific place to be, and it's really cool to see how they use all the space they have. So, moving on to more performance analysis, there are two specific topics I want to analyze. The main one is embodiment, but I'm also going to talk about performance in place. So, How is embodiment used in Stomp Live 2009? Well, embodiment, I would say, is the key theme in this performance because everything is an instrument that is capable of art, as Stomp has come to show us. So, the body itself embodies rhythm. That's a tongue twister. The body itself embodies rhythm through sound, like foot stomps and chest slaps, but also through motion. So, when you're moving the broom, you're swinging it into a beautiful pattern. Uh, and the sound of each object produces shapes how the performer's body moves, while the performer's movements in turn generates the object's sound. This kind of creates an interesting relationship, reciprocal relationship. I'd say it creates a two-way embodiment in which neither body nor object performs alone. Basically, they kind of affect each other, like a positive reinforcement kind of thing. Because everything is an instrument, even boring and mundane objects turn into performance. Uh, Boring stuff like cleaning the floor with a broom or taking out the trash, picking up the trash can, they turn into a performance, meaning that work itself is embodied as an art or performance through this performance. Now, the place of performance is equally as important. The performance was filmed inside the Ambassador's Theatre, as said before, in London, and the set was designed to imitate an extreme urban setting. So there's a picture on the right of one of the sets they have there. As you can see, it's kind of meant to look pretty urban, almost kind of rustic in a way. Uh, so I described it as like alley walls, pipes and railings, industrial scaffolding, trash bins, barrels. Not something you would like, not the prettiest kind of area. It's supposed to be more realistic, like a modern kind of urban environment. So this transforms the theater to feel like a street or back alley. The objects used are brooms, garbage cans, lids, and plastic bags. And this kind of adds to the urban feeling, the whole urban setting, give it a regional city identity. I'd say it's something like a street in Philadelphia, New Jersey. And what I really like about this is it destroys the high art boundary. So, art is typically thought of coming from rich or elite areas, especially during the Victorian era. But instead, here it shows that this performance shows that art can come from any place with everyday objects, even in places you wouldn't expect, like a street alley. So, how does it relate to our course? One of the articles we went over was Tamara Borivica's Dance as a Way of Knowing, Creative Inquiry into the Embodiment of Womanhood Through Dance. That was an article we looked at the beginning of the semester. In this article, just kind of to sum it up real quick, she argues that dance is a way of knowing. Basically, it's a method that reveals sensory, emotional, and bodily ways of understanding oneself, their thoughts, and the world around them that words cannot provide. Basically, kind of like rediscovering themselves in ways that language cannot really provide. So, although Stomp is not about gendered identity, unlike Borovica's article, it strongly supports her idea that movement produces knowledge. No dialogue is used at all, so all knowledge is gained solely through body-based cues like rhythm, weight, and timing, things that words can't provide. Borovica shows that objects interact with bodies to produce sensations and responses since they carry meaning. I'd say that Stomp is the same way. Instead of symbolizing gender, they use work objects like everyday brooms, buckets, and trash can lids to symbolize labor in the working class environments. Uh, Going off of that, Stomp completely confirms Borovica's ideas about embodiment. To sum these up, these are basically movement produces knowledge, identities can be created through physical action, and meaning is created through interaction. So we kind of gave these objects meaning after interacting with them in Stomp. They each give their objects meaning by using them as instruments, uh, a meaning that's different than their intended purpose. And that kind of goes that kind of goes in with the identity. So uh, an argument could be made that Stomp extends her argument by applying the principles to topics other than gender, such as labor, class, and urban identity. In a weird way, Stomp reminds me of the performance A Sort of Joy. This is another performance we saw in Packback. Basically, both performances use random objects or data in the case of A Sort of Joy and create something out of it that's new without transforming the object or data in any way. So, key takeaways after watching Stomp Live 2009. Embodiment is not only emotional or personal, it can be rhythmic and material. And that kind of goes into what Borivica was saying, how bodies and objects cooperate to create meaning, confirming her argument about material and cultural entanglement of embodiment. So, We know from both Burvica and from Stomp that movement communicates knowledge that can't be expressed verbally, and art can be created from anywhere, from anything. That's from Stomp mostly. Um, that's the biggest key takeaway I'd say is that art can be created from anywhere, from anything, because these people were able to make a performance about creating interesting, complex rhythm and sounds from simple things like broomsticks and trash can lids. So that's what really makes the performance shine is their ability to create art from a mundane setting rather than an elite one. Just going off of that, like that's why I included these two pictures on the right. The top right, there's a fancy portrait painting of a Turkish lady. That's kind of what people think of when they see art. But I also included a picture of a broomstick handle in the bottom right to kind of tie in with Stomp how anything can be artwork. Because in the case of Stomp, they were able to create something really fascinating and really creative just for the broomstick alone. So that's it, and thank you for watching.